we're just simply at the point where every single fantasy point scored or not scored matters a ton. You're fighting for playoff spot, you're fighting and clawing for playoff seeding, or you're just in a really good spot and you need to continue this momentum you've got. Every point freaking matters at this point. And I do this every Saturday because it's important for me to get some injury updates for you guys so we can make some good fantasy decisions together in preparation for the particular fantasy week. And I got a comment the other day that ranking videos are more important than must-start and sit videos, and I agree for the most part. The reason that I do this on Saturdays is simply because we can get a lot of information after the full week of practice on who's playing and who's not, and I'm glad we do it on Saturdays. So today I am getting into every matchup of Week 13 fantasy football and deciding who the must-start and sit running backs are for Week 13. And I'm one of the only fantasy football YouTubers working on a Saturday to get you guys the best content possible. So please go down there, drop a like on this video, and subscribe to the channel to show your support. Let's go ahead and just dive right into it right now. So the first matchup we've got is Indianapolis at the Tennessee Titans. I've got Zach Moss and I've got Derrick Henry as must-starts. Zach Moss, listen, it's been a while since we've seen him do what he did at the beginning of the season. But if you remember, this guy was putting up like 16, 17 fantasy points per game, averaging almost 5 yards per carry, running really hard, efficiently, and getting the full workload without Jonathan Taylor. Now, Jonathan Taylor is out again, and it is the Zach Moss show all over again in Indianapolis. So I really think that this matchup against Tennessee, like, they're not exactly some slouch defense against the run, but with the opportunities that he's definitely going to see, I've got no problem telling my audience he's a top 10 running back this week. I mean, that's where we're at with Zach Moss. And Derrick Henry, I discussed it last week. I said, if Derrick Henry doesn't perform against the Carolina Panthers, who they played last week, it's over. Well, he performed. He performed. He got over 75 yards in that game and 2 touchdowns. Derrick Henry is not who he used to be. I don't think that Indianapolis is a bad matchup, though. I think Indianapolis' fantasy defense is good, but it's not because they don't give up yardage. I talk about that all the time on my defense ranking videos. This team gives up yardage. That's why I think Derrick Henry can take advantage in a divisional game where he usually has his best games in division. Tyjae Spears is a very, very, very low-end flex option. His volume has gone down. His snap count is still low. Tyjae Spears is just simply not involved enough consistently for me to be able to put trust into telling my audience that this guy is a clear must start. I just don't see it with Tyjae Spears. But if you do want to get a potential big play, maybe a touchdown, and you're really desperate with bye weeks or injuries, I can understand flexing Tyjae Spears. And then everybody else is irrelevant in the matchup. Atlanta Falcons at the New York Jets. The next matchup here, Bijan Robinson is now in full must-start territory. And really, Bijan Robinson, the whole season for me, has been a must-start. I mean, there's been a couple weeks there mid-season where I was like, not feeling great about Bijan, but here's the thing. It's been the same story with Bijan all year. The player is talented. The player himself, I have no questions with whatsoever. The workload is the problem. If he can get 15 to 20 opportunities per week consistently, he's a must-start guy because he's averaging 5 yards a carry on everything he gets. Bijan Robinson the past 2 weeks, over 20 carries. Last week, 2 touchdowns, including a receiving touchdown. I don't care what the matchup is. Bijan Robinson is must-start. And Breece Hall to me is flexible. Breece Hall is someone I've expressed concern with this particular week, though. Breece Hall, heading into the week, got thrown under the bus, essentially, by Robert Saleh. He threw him under the bus and was like, he needs to learn how to fight for more yardage. That's not a great thing to hear from a coach. So I don't love that. I've been a little bit leery on Breece Hall lately, and not only because of the bad offense, which is obviously a factor, but Breece Hall is also heading into this game questionable. Now, from what I've seen, I'm expecting him to play. We don't know yet, though. So Breece Hall is questionable in this game. Dalvin Cook, even if Breece Hall doesn't play, I would not play him. Because also, Dalvin Cook is on the injury report as well, and is questionable heading into the game too. And Dalvin Cook has not been good. He's barely averaging 3 yards per carry. Dalvin Cook, if you're not seeing it from Breece Hall, you're not going to see it from Dalvin Cook. So Dalvin Cook, even if Breece doesn't play and he does, I can't see telling my audience that this is the guy you want. And Tyler Algier at this point, with Bijan Robinson getting more work, I don't see the upside there. Detroit Lions at the New Orleans Saints. All three of the running backs are must-starts. David Montgomery, must start. Jahmyr Gibbs, must start. Alvin Kamara, must start. Now, I want to start this off with the fact that I got a comment a couple days ago from someone who actually owned all three of these players. All three of them. And he was wondering which one he should sit. And I said Alvin Kamara, which, by the way, the guys you see on the list, they're in order in accordance with my rankings. So Montgomery is the highest, then Jahmyr Gibbs, and then it's Alvin Kamara. I think they're all must-start guys. I love starting all of them. David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs because of the fact that Detroit's offensive line is awesome. Their offense as a whole is extremely efficient and dependent on the run. And then Alvin Kamara because he sees so much freaking volume. Now, the one concern I expressed with Alvin Kamara this week is that there's a lot of things that he's been saying in the media, criticizing the team for lack of identity. Those are not good comments when a coach hears that. And the coach, Dennis Allen, was not happy about that. He disputed that. So, I'm not saying that Kamara's going to get benched. I mean, Kendre Miller's out of this game. I don't think they're going to give Jamal Williams the load. I'm not saying Kamara's going to get benched. What I am saying is that with the uncertainty in New Orleans, it does worry me a little bit, but not to the point where he's not a must-start. And then everybody else, you can't play anybody else. Jamal Williams is a no. He's been a total bust this year. Kendre Miller's a no because he's out. And then Craig Reynolds has just been... He can't get relevancy with both Jahmyr Gibbs and Montgomery on top of their game. Denver Broncos at the Houston Texans, the next matchup. Javonte Williams, he's on the border of start and flex territory for me. Javonte Williams is simply just in a situation on offense where he's clearly the best running back they've got. Now they're seeing that and they're giving him the workload. He's getting, on average, about 18 to 20 opportunities per game, which is exactly what we need. Houston is not exactly the best matchup for a running back, but Javonte Williams is just simply in an offense that's running really efficiently right now. So more often than not, I think I'm just going to find myself putting Javonte Williams into start territory. Like I said, he's going to teeter back and forth between flex territory and start. Either way, I think Javonte is a very solid start this week. Houston's got the most disgusting backfield in the league. I actually really do think this, actually. It may be not as bad as Carolina's, but Houston's is up there. The worst running back situation for a good, legitimate, playoff-worthy team. Houston's running back room is gross. And Dameon Pierce coming back only made it worse. Like, Dameon Pierce, you can't start him because while he did get basically the same carry workload that Devin Singletary did last week, Singletary's seeing the volume. That's why Devin Singletary is in low-end flex territory because of the volume he saw last week with the receptions. So, I hate them both. I think they're both awful options. It's similar to a Tyjae Spears situation where it's like, if he gets 10 opportunities in this game, I can understand wanting to play him because of the fact that he has shown some good games this year. There's no doubt about that. The Los Angeles Chargers at the New England Patriots is next up. And Austin Eckler, I've been low on. I've got issues with him right now for sure. But he's still a must-start. It's still Austin Eckler we're talking about here. And name value at this point, like, it definitely means something, but it doesn't mean as much right now with Eckler. Because Eckler just simply hasn't been performing up to the standards that we're used to from him. He's averaging less than 4 yards per carry. He simply has not been that great. And he's not as consistent getting in the end zone anymore. That's a problem. That's a lot of Austin Eckler's upside. So I think that Eckler's still a must start. I'll get into it later this afternoon when I do the wide receivers must start to sit video. I think that Keenan Allen is going to be the primary guy that the Patriots want to stop this week. That's my thought. So I think Austin Eckler actually does have a decent chance to have a decent game. And then Ramondre Stevenson is right on the border. High-end flex starter right here. And I already know I'm going to get some pushback on this. I have heard it from my audience that I'm way too low on Ramondre. And really, that might be the case. I can understand the argument. I mean, we're talking about a guy who is the entire offense. This guy is the entire offense of New England. The problem that I have with it is it's similar to the Saquon Barkley thing. Saquon is his entire offense. But the difference here is that Saquon's a better player than Ramondre. He's more explosive. He's more capable of giving you a 28-point game, a 30-point game. Ramondre Stevenson's ceiling this year has been about 18 to 20 points depending on the format you play in. So I think that Ramondre is a good start because of the fact that he's the entire offense. But I just don't think his ceiling is ultimately super high, and I think his floor is actually, relatively low, which keeps me just from playing him all the time and saying that he's some sort of top-tier starting option. I just don't see it that way right now. And Zeke is similar to Dalvin Cook. I just can't put my trust in that. And Josh McKelly is obviously irrelevant. Arizona Cardinals at the Pittsburgh Steelers here. Nobody's a must-start. James Conner, Najee Harris, Jalen Warren, all of them are flexible. James Conner has been a massive disappointment since he's come back. And really, when you look at what he's done, it's not because he hasn't been efficient. The dude is efficient because there is a strong correlation to running backs who play with mobile quarterbacks and their efficiency running the ball. There's a strong correlation there. The problem is that James Conner isn't getting in the end zone because Kyler Murray has already come in and rushed for several touchdowns on his own. That's the ultimate problem here with James Conner, which keeps him out of must-start territory in a matchup that really is not awful. It's not a terrible matchup. Pittsburgh's defense is bend but don't break. They give up plenty of yardage. So James Conner, I like him better than Najee and Jalen Warren, just simply because of the fact that he's on his own. Now, with Najee Harris and Jalen Warren, they're going to go back and forth for me a lot of the times. That's just the reality here, is that we're looking at two running backs that literally get the same workload every week. The first week without Matt Canada didn't change a thing there. It didn't change a thing. So I don't have a problem with the workload being skewed towards one side or the other because that's not what we're seeing. What we're seeing is the same workload, and then sometimes Jalen Warren pops off for a big play, and then sometimes Najee Harris gets in the end zone at the red zone. That's the ultimate thing here. Which one of them gets the touchdown that separates them? And I think that this is the type of matchup where I can see Najee Harris getting an end zone rushing touchdown. Jalen Warren, I'm usually going to prefer him. They're very close to my rankings, separated by literally one spot. But yeah, they're both flexible options this week. There's actually some hope for the Steelers running game. And then both of the other Arizona Cardinals running backs, don't even think about it. Miami Dolphins at the Washington Commanders here. Raheem Mostert and Brian Robinson are both must-starts. And I already know I'm going to get some pushback on H-An, so give me a second and I'll get to it. Raheem Mostert simply because of the fact that dude is like just getting touchdown after touchdown after touchdown. It's absurd what he's doing. So he's one of their best weapons at this point. And Washington's defense is just an excellent matchup. Brian Robinson because of the fact that I think that Washington actually could put up some points in this matchup. I think that it's got potential to be a shootout. It really does. So Brian Robinson to me absolutely could get in the end zone not a couple times, but maybe once or twice, just in a really high-end matchup. So that's why he's on the border of start options versus flex options. I prefer to go ahead and start him because I do think the matchup upside is actually pretty high. And let's get into Devon Achane. Devon Achane is the single hardest player for me to rank, to categorize this particular week. Devon Achane is playing. We have news that he is going to be suiting up against the Washington Commanders. What do they do with his workload? That's the ultimate question I have. All we've seen from Devon Achane is boom games when he's played. That's all we've seen. There's middle ground there somewhere, and I just don't know if his floor is like 3 points this week. I think it is, based on the fact that he's not 100% right now, and because of multiple factors, like they're probably trying to save him for the playoffs. So Devon Achane, just because of the upside he's got, yeah, he's definitely flexible. A high-end flex option at that, but I struggle to put him in must-start territory because of the fact that he's just not 100% right now. And the last time we saw him not at 100%, he came out the exact same freaking play. I just can't put my trust in him entirely. Antonio Gibson, Jeff Wilson, they're both irrelevant when you've got Brian Robinson, Raheem Mostert, and Devon Chain in the game. Carolina Panthers at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this week. Rachaad White, I think, is in for a great game. I mean, you look at what Carolina has given up to every freaking running back that they've played in fantasy this year. It's been abysmal for the Panthers and fantastic for us as fantasy managers. That's what we're dealing with here. Rachaad White has already been playing very well in fantasy as of late, and he gets the matchup. Fire up Rachaad White this week in most circumstances. Now, would I play him over Raheem Mostert? No, I would not. Would I play him over Jahmyr Gibbs? I would not do that. My line is about Brian Robinson. I would play him over Brian Robinson for sure. Rachaad White, in most cases, fire him up. Chuba Hubbard, Miles Sanders, I'm personally doing it with Chuba Hubbard this week because I'm desperate with bye weeks, but that's the only scenario I could see myself or endorsing my audience to play a guy like Chuba Hubbard. Same thing with Miles Sanders. They're both flexible because they're both seeing relatively even amount of workload over the past several weeks. Chuba Hubbard's the one you want because he's been more efficient with what he's done, and then everybody else is irrelevant in the matchup. The San Francisco 49ers at the Philadelphia Eagles. The best matchup of the week from a football perspective. Just as a football fan, let's enjoy this game. It's going to be an awesome football game to watch, and you want every fantasy option in it, which is why, obviously, Christian McCaffrey's must start every week. Running back one, no questions, let's move on. But DeAndre Swift in a tough matchup is still a must start. Do I love the matchup? Absolutely not. Does DeAndre Swift have plenty of upside in a game like this? 100%. Now, he was dealing with an injury earlier in the week. Upgraded to full practice on Thursday and Friday, I believe. So he's going to play in this game. And my argument to that is nobody's fully healthy this time of the year. Nobody is. So DeAndre Swift just going to play through it. You play DeAndre Swift because you need the fantasy options in this game. And then all the other backups, they're just not getting enough work. I considered Kenneth Gainwell in flex territory as a low-end flex option, and I think you still can do it. My preference is that my audience does not have to use Kenneth Gainwell, though. Cleveland Browns at the Los Angeles Rams. Kyren Williams, at this point, you start this guy every freaking week. Top 5 running back at the least, top 2 running back at the most. Kyren Williams is in that territory right now. I don't care what the matchup is. Cleveland, not an easy matchup. Looks like Myles Garrett is going to play, but it's still a matchup that I don't care about because Kyren Williams is that dude this year. You just play Kyren Williams and ride it out because he can be very responsible for winning you, not only getting you into the playoffs, but winning you a fantasy championship. And then I think that Cleveland running backs, both of them, are very viable starts. I think Jerome Ford, very high-end flex option. The matchup is very good. The Rams defense is atrocious. They're not a good defense. I get it. Last week they let 14 points up on the Cardinals, and the Cleveland Browns have lots of issues this week with Joe Flacco as their 4th starting quarterback of the season. I get it. But I'm saying to you, Cleveland's offensive line is top tier, and their offense as a whole, very efficiently run by a good offensive coaching staff, and their running game is what powers them through all their wins. That's the reason why Cleveland's running backs are both on here, because Kareem Hunt, while he does see less volume, and it's actually kind of gone down a little bit, this guy is a touchdown threat, as he always has been this year, and I think it's a good possibility that he possibly could get one in this game. Royce Freeman, if you didn't see what happened last week, he had 13 carries for 70-plus yards. He had a really good game and a touchdown. I like what he did. I don't think that he's going to see that same volume this week. That was a blowout game last week. I don't think the Rams are going to blow out the Browns this week. I think the Browns will keep it relatively close, which is going to keep feeding Kyren Williams the ball, because the problem last week was what I had heard was that Kyren Williams was going to get less work because of the injury. Well, he only had 16 carries, but he didn't even need 20 carries to do what he did. I think Kyren Williams, it's just his volume week. So I can't endorse playing Royce Freeman. Kansas City Chiefs at the Green Bay Packers here. Isaiah Pacheco continues to be a must start. There's no questions for me personally when it comes to Pacheco. I don't have any. I mean, we're talking about a guy who gets consistently 16 to 20 opportunities per game. He got 2 touchdowns last week. This guy's a very good player. He's their second best weapon on offense. That's just the reality. So Pacheco is definitely a must start for me. Would I start Pacheco over a guy like Raheem Mostert? No, I would not. Would I start him over Swift? Not this week. I would not do it. But Pacheco is a guy I would start over Brian Robinson. Possibly Rachaad White too. Pacheco is definitely a start-worthy guy on 90% of fantasy rosters. A.J. Dillon is flexible because of the fact that Aaron Jones is out again. I've been on this all year, and I don't really feel like beating a dead horse on this one. I think that A.J. Dillon's just a very mid player. I don't think he's a very good player. I just don't. Efficiency numbers back it up. What you see on the field, there's just not enough juice and energy in his game. I think A.J. Dillon's an okay flex because of the fact that he is the starting running back again this week. And then all the other running backs, I can't endorse either the Chiefs running backs at this point, and obviously Aaron Jones is out. Cincinnati Bengals at the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Monday night matchup of the week that would have been a great game. What could have been of this matchup if Joe Burrow was playing would be awesome, but it's not the reality. And Travis Etienne, I think, has a great week this week. I get it. I've been calling for Travis Etienne's re-breakout for weeks now. I understand it for sure. And it might be frustrating on your end, which I get. I think that what we have to remember is what he's done throughout the year. And when you look at the past 2 weeks, they've been relatively competitive matchups that Jacksonville is just, I think, going to run the ball a lot in this game with Travis Etienne. And I think Travis Etienne just ultimately has the top 5 to 10 game this week. And then Joe Mixon is flexible just because he's a starter. I think that there's very little upside here with him, though. And then you can't play Tank Bigsby or Travion Williams. So let me know what questions you need answered for Week 13 Fantasy Football in the comments below. And if you want to see the must-start and sit defenses for Week 13 Fantasy Football, click on this video right here.